Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads a must converse is the channel. You know what it is. Today is another author spotlight. All my author spotlights are about my favorite authors. Authors that you should read, authors you should know and get into. And today is Italo Calvino. I'll show you a picture of Italo Calvino here. Very strapping Italian guy. And what a guy. What a guy Italo Calvino is. One of the most creative writers that has ever written. That has ever written anything down on a page. Italo Calvino is right there in the top. He's amazing. So creative and experimental. Very experimental. So I would say, you're not going to find that you like, everything that he's done, because he was so experimental and, just able to go at something and make it work. He made things work that, in reading it, you might just be like, hey, what is it? What is actually going on here? And a critical thinking, you're just like kind of thinking, man, this is just weird. This is strange, and then he makes it work. And later, you're affected by by the uniqueness of his writing. So I have down here the ones I'm going to talk about. Some of the other ones are up here. Honorable mentions are the Complete Cosmic Comics. This is Italo Calvino doing sci-fi. He takes physics ideas, scientific ideas, things like entanglement and the ideas of gravity, entropy, things like that. And these are short stories. The Complete Cosmic Comics here are short stories told to you from the perspective of an alien. Unpronounceable name. It's like just a string of consonants, no vowels. So you can't pronounce the thing. But he's just telling stories to you, as the reader. And they're very, very interesting. They're very, very cool. And so Numbers in the Dark, right there next to it, is another short story collection. Cool. But the Cosmic Comics I wanted to give an honorable mention to as something that I could definitely talk about at length. Six memos for the new millennium, that was being written as talks when he passed away. He did not finish these talks, so they got bound into this collection, the 6 memos for the next millennium. Definitely worth a read. I've just read a couple of them, so I put that one up here. Definitely should read, though, Baron in the Trees. Baron in the Trees is an amazing book. And Baron in the Trees, The Non-Existent Night, and The Cloven Viscount is two that are bound in one right there. That's early Calvino, and his most noteworthy of his early works is The Baron in the Trees. What an amazing book. Magical realism. Experimental magical realism. Not experimental writing so much, but experimental subject matter. It's just so unique. Calvino's super unique. But The Baron in the Trees is about a young baron, a young boy who gets in a fight with his parents there and says, I'm tired of all this. I'm gonna go live in the trees, and I'm never coming down. And he actually lives in the trees and never comes down, ever. We get his life in the trees. It's amazing. Definitely should check it out. But the three that I want to touch on, Calvino, you could just talk about him and his writing all day long. But to give you a taste of what he's all about, the first one that I want to touch on is called The Castle of Crossed Destinies. And I want to give a shout out and thank you to Matthew at Mayberry Book Club for hooking me up with this. It is a very cool book, and I definitely enjoyed it. I'm a fan of the tarot. Calvino doesn't go into, the kind of esoteric ideas about the tarot in this at all. He's using the Visconti tarot deck, which is an Italian tarot deck, and there's tarot cards everywhere on all the pages. And that is not for no reason. what happens is a group of people, travelers, from all around, meet up in this castle. And this castle is in disrepair. It's no longer a castle that kind of houses a nobility. It's now an inn for travelers. And they meet up there and they have their dinner. And after they have their dinner, this whole big, this big area, this huge table is set with travelers all up and down it. And they are there and they realize that everybody's mute. Nobody can talk. Nobody can speak. And so a tarot deck is pulled out, the Visconti tarot deck, and these travelers tell each other stories using the tarot deck. Sometimes, most of the time, it is the picture, just the picture itself. And like I said, it's not using the esoteric understanding of the tarot at all. It's basically just take the picture itself and extrapolate a meaning from it. Strength, you have the boy raising the club to a lion. And so, in the context of the story, it may not be a lion, but it is a struggle between man and beast. The Empress, So, the stories are very, very well done. They're very interesting. And using the tarot as, for storytelling like that is very, very cool. That's the kind of thing that Calvino does. Experiments with different things. In that, it was just the idea of using the tarot to tell stories. He probably sat down with a deck the whole time that he's writing these stories out, and all the happenings. Those cards that are on the pages show you exactly, what the story is, and it's very, very interesting and pleasurable to actually go through a deck with it as well. If you have the Visconti deck, I would definitely recommend it because certain different tarots have different imagery on them. So that's the Castle of Cross Destinies. So my all-time favorite, and I think everybody's all-time favorite, Italo Calvino, has got to be Invisible Cities. Invisible Cities is a complete poetic mind blow. It is so awesome what he does with this. And it's paced, so well paced, that you just get immersed, like lowering yourself into a pool, a comfortable pool, and then you're just surrounded, and then you're just in this thing, and it's just permeating everything, and you don't want to leave. You don't want it to end. You never want this book to end, and it's so short, 165 pages, and they are very, very short snippets of different cities. This is laid out, if you're not aware, as a conversation between the great Kublai Khan and Marco Polo. And so Kublai Khan is the king, master, emperor of a huge empire. Many, many, many hundreds of cities in his empire. And Marco Polo is an explorer, is a traveler that has seen many, many thousands of cities. And they are in a discourse. They are not, it's not where, there's one conversation going throughout this book. There are many conversations. Marco Polo is leaving and coming back, and there's always this exchange between Marco Polo and Kublai Khan throughout this whole book, and it, every 7 to 10 cities that you come in contact with, maybe then there is a small interlude where Kublai Khan and Marco Polo are talking. And most of it is Marco Polo just describing cities. At least that's how it starts off, that he's describing cities that he's been to and that he's seen. And they are all very, very well told, wonderful language, beautiful imagery, that kind of thing. Even though, they're not all beautiful. Some of them are horrible. Some of them are horrifying. Some of them are actually, I love the one where there's a city that is nothing but a trap. Okay, that these what is said is that these people, these three builders, that they had dreams where they were trying, they were chasing their love. They were chasing this female, this love, they were in love with her in the dream. They don't know who this person is. It's just a figure in the dream. And wherever they turned, the love would get away from them. So they built this city, a city where there's no hiding places, a city where there's no place, no way to extricate yourself from the city, and the city becomes this trap. It's awesome. But there's so many awesome spots, awesome cities that are touched on in here. So I'll give just a little bit, just to give you a taste. Eutropia is the capital city of this territory. The traveler sees not one city but many, of equal size and not unlike another, scattered over a vast rolling plateau. Eutropia is not one, but all these cities together. Only one is inhabited at a time, and the others are empty, and this process is carried out in rotation. Now I shall tell you how. On the day when Eutropia's inhabitants feel the grip of weariness and no one can bear any longer his job, his relatives, his house, and his life, debts, and people he must greet or who greet him, then the whole citizenry decides to move to the next city, which is there waiting for them, empty and as good as new. There each will take up a new job, a different wife or husband, will see another landscape on opening his window, and will spend his time with different pastimes, friends, and different gossip. So their life is renewed from move to move, along cities whose exposure or declivity or streams or winds make each site somehow different from the others. Since their society is ordered without great distinction of wealth or authority, the passage from one function to another takes place almost without jolts. Variety is guaranteed by the simple assignments, so that in the span of a lifetime a man rarely returns to a job that has already been his. Thus the city repeats its life, identical, shifting up and down on its empty chessboard. The inhabitants repeat the same scenes, with actors changed. They repeat the same speeches with variously combined accents. They open alternate mouths to identical yawns. Alone, among all the cities of the empire, Eutropia always remains the same. Mercury, god of the fickle, to whom the city is sacred, worked this ambiguous miracle. Another one. I love this one. This belief is handed down in Beersheba. That is suspended in the heavens. There exists another Beersheba, where the city's most elevated virtues and sentiments are poised, and that if this terrestrial Beersheba will take the celestial one as its model, the two cities will become one. The image propagated by tradition is that of a city of pure gold, with silver locks and diamond gates, a jewel city, all insect and inlaid, as maximum of laborious study might produce when applied to materials of the maximum worth. True to this belief, Beersheba's inhabitants honor everything that suggests for them the celestial city. They accumulate noble metals and rare stones. They renounce all ephemeral excesses. They develop forms of composite composure. They also believe, these inhabitants, that another Beersheba exists underground, the receptacle of everything base and unworthy that happens to them, and it is their constant care to erase from the visible Beersheba every tie or resemblance to this lower twin. In the place of roofs, they imagine that the underground city has overturned rubbish bins with cheese runs, greasy paper fish scales, dishwater, uneaten spaghetti, old bandages spilling from them, or even that its substance is dark and malleable and thick, like the pitch that pours down from the sewers, prolonging the route of the human bowels from black hole to black hole until it splatters against the lowest subterranean floor. In Beersheba's beliefs, there is an element of truth and one of error. It is true that the city is accompanied by two projections of itself, one celestial and one infernal. But the citizens are mistaken about their consistency. The inferno that broods in the deepest subsoil of Beersheba is a city designed by the most authoritative architects, built with the most expensive materials on the market, with every device and mechanism and gear system functioning, decked with tassels and fringes and frills hanging from all the pipes and levers. Amazing, huh? And it just keeps going. And the talk between Marco Polo and Kublai Khan get more and more metaphysical as you go through it, and get more and more kind of symbolic. The cities are all within each other. The cities are encompassing other cities, things like that. And it just becomes a mind trip. Cities in the sky, hidden cities, continuous cities. There's thin cities, cities in eyes, cities in signs, cities in memory. These are all the kinds of headings that are over the different cities that we hear about. And it's just exploring this thing with such, just an amazing skill. One more and then we'll be done with invisible cities. In Olinda, if you go out with a magnifying glass and hunt carefully, you may find somewhere a point no bigger than the head of a pin, which, if you look at it slightly enlarged, reveals itself within the roofs, the antennas, the skylights, the gardens, the pools, the streamers across the streets, the kiosks in the squares, the racing track. That point does not remain there. A year later, you will find it the size of half a lemon, and as large as a mushroom, then a soup plate, and then it becomes a full-size city, enclosed within the earlier city, a new city that forces its way ahead in the earlier city and presses it towards the outside. Olinda is not the only city that grows in concentric circles like tree trunks, with each year adding one more ring. But in other cities there remains in the center the old narrow girdle of the walls from which the withered spires rise, the towers, the tiled roofs, the domes, while the new quarters sprawl around them like a loosened belt. Not Olinda. The old walls expanding, bearing the old quarters with them, enlarged but maintaining their proportions on a broader horizon at the edges of the city. They surround the sightly new quarters, which also grew up on the margins and became thinner to make room for still even more recent ones pressing from the inside, and so on to the heart of the city, a totally new Olinda, which in its reduced dimensions retains the features and the flow of lymph from the first Olinda, and all the Olindas that have blossomed one from the other, and within this innermost circle there is already blossoming, though it's hard to discern it, the next Olinda and those that will grow after it. The city that is a flower, right? The city that is constantly blossoming into more and more city. That is called hidden cities. And I can't recommend it enough, guys. For sure. Such a beautiful experience, and one that rewards more and more reading. It's one of those things that it's so poetry. It speaks to your soul. This is what humans do. Our cities are kind of an analog for the people that are in it, and there's no talk of the people very much of themselves in that book. It's all in reference to the city. How the people live depends on their city, and that's all we get. So it's very much a city driven, instead of a character driven. The cities are the characters. It's an amazing work, and so I love it. And I said, it's probably my favorite, but my first Italo Calvino, and on up there, maybe my favorite, is If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. If on a Winter's Night a Traveler is an amazing book that is a complete mind blow, with some of the most wonderful stories in it that I've ever read. Definitely some of the best of Calvino's narrative storytelling. And this book is frustrating in a way, because what it is it leaves you wanting more every single step of the way. Every other chapter is made to leave you wanting more. How does it do this? Okay, this book is written in second person. You do this, you do that. You as a reader, you are sitting there. You are about to begin reading Italo Calvino's new novel, If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. Relax, concentrate, dispel every other thought. Let the world around you fade. Best to close the door. The TV is always on in the next room. Tell the others right away, no, I don't want to watch TV. Raise your voice. They won't hear you otherwise. And so he's talking directly to you. You got a copy of If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, and you're gonna read it. So this is what you do, and he pulls you in right off the rip with, you are this person, and you start reading this book. So you start reading, and the first chapter is that. The second chapter, you start reading the book. It's called If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. You finish that chapter, and then it's alternating. You're reading, and then you are getting a chapter of what you are doing in between reading the chapters of the book. So after reading the first chapter of If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, you have another chapter of you. You do this, you do that. Well, you realize that your book is misprinted. The book is not complete. The book is printed wrong. So you go back to the bookstore where you bought it, and you ask for a copy. They say, yeah, this has happened. It's a problem with the printer or something, and you're miffed. But what are you gonna do? And you go walk around, and there's a girl. Okay, you're a male. The you in there is a male. So it's Calvino, but it's you as the reader. And there's a female there that has the same problem, that has had a copy of A Winter's Night a Traveler, and it's misprinted, and she's there for the same reason that you are. Well, you get a little courage, and you ask her for a phone number, because you have this common thing. Well, why don't you give me a call, when you get it or something, or if you want to, read it together, and we'll we can talk about it. Okay, and you exchange numbers. Well, you get a copy of the book, and it's a different book. The next chapter, you're in a totally different book. And this kind of thing happens over and over and over. You get one chapter of story that you think you're hunting this whole time for, if on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino. You're hunting for that book to read it. But every time you get the book and you open it to read it, it's a different book. And so you're starting all these stories, and you get these short, wonderful starts of stories. And then you're left hanging, and you're like, this is insane. I gotta get this book. And so you go on an adventure to find this book. There is there's a degree, there's a level of this book. There is like writing different books and putting different titles on the book, because that book might be censored or banned some of the things I might say. So you might have a different title on the book, and so it's a different book, you know, this kind of thing, and it goes into these kind of things a bit, and it's just a romp. It is an amazing experience, one of the best books ever that is written in second person that I've ever read, and you'll remember it for a long, long time. It'll stick with you for a long, long time. So I hope you enjoyed this book too. I'm going to put these on up here. Italo Calvino is a master, one of these master storytellers, and not afraid to just go at something that has never ever been done before. Try to write something that is totally unique, and he is very, very successful at it. Was very, very successful at it. What a guy. Italo Calvino forever. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what your favorite Calvino is. You know, I would expect 90% is going to say Invisible Cities. But let me know what you think about Calvino. Holler at me. Catch you on the next one, BookTube. Bye-bye.